All right, so now let's get going on some review questions. Go ahead. Okay. So, you purchase a fly rod with a labeled or pre-tax price of $889. The local sales tax rate is 8%. What's your final cost? By the way, I was very happy to see you ordering a fly rod and purchasing it. It's a great pastime as you get older. So the final cost is going to be the labeled price plus 8% of the label price because that's the part you pay for tax. So it's kind of like factoring here. We're going to pull out the labeled price, which is 100%, plus 8% of the labeled price. So altogether, you're going to get 100 plus 8% times the labeled price, which is 108% times the labeled price, which is 1.08. That's the conversion of the percent to a decimal. Remember, you move the decimal 2 places to the left. 1.08 times 889, and you get $960.12. An alternative way to do this is simply figure out what 8% of 889 is and then add it to the pre-tax price of 889. A little bit longer, but it works both ways. Go ahead. Okay, so Jenny invests $9,000 into an account that earns 18%. Nice account. Compounded interest. How long until Jenny's investment doubles? How much money will Jenny have in 12 years? So what we're looking at here is the rule of 72. And the rule of 72 is 72 divided by the interest rate tells us how long it takes to double. Or 72 divided by how long it takes to double tells us the interest rate. It works both ways. 72 divided by 18 is 4. So in 4 years, you'll have a value of 18,000. In 8 years, you'll have 36,000. And in 12 years, you will have $72,000. A little bit of a practice problem here, and we always recommend that you draw a picture. Okay, so volume, we know we can look at volume 2 ways. We can look at it as length times width times height, or as the area of the base multiplied by the height, either way. So in this case, it's going to be 24 times 3 and 12. So if I do 24 times 12 times 3, I get 864. And then, of course, feet times feet times feet is feet cubed. But danger, danger, danger. They want the answer in cubic yards. So what do we got if we do cubic yards? Well, that means I have to convert from feet to yards. And that's smaller to bigger. And we all know that when you go from smaller to bigger, you divide. The factor is 3, but it's a 3 for every one of those feet. So that means it's a total factor of feet times feet times feet, which is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. And 86 divided by 3 cubed, which is 27, is 32 cubic yards. Now, if you didn't like that way of converting, you could do 864 cubic feet times a yard, but 3 feet, 3 feet, 3 feet. So you're converting 1 yard into 3 feet. When we do that, we will get the same 32, and because all the feet go die, you're left with yards cubed. Okay, another review question. Okay, so what's the percent increase in cars sold in 2006 compared to those sold in 2002? So it's always going to be the percent increase is the absolute difference. So you're going to do the number sold in 2006, subtract the number sold in 2002. But then you must divide by the reference or original amount. So 1900 minus 1430 divided by 1430. 1900 coming from the amount sold in 2006, 1430 from 2002, the original year. So that's 470 divided by 1430. It says 1580, don't worry, it's 1430. And that works out to be 30%. Next up. Okay, so compound interest formula is, just in case you forgot. And if you forgot, you can pause the tape to start back up again. And if you forgot, you really should have pictures of this with your phone on your phone with an album labeled math, and you put the pictures of these formulas in there so you have them at your fingertips at all times. Okay, so remember, P is principal. A is the amount of money in the account at any point in time, is the P principal times 1 plus the interest rate divided by N, which is the number of times it's compounded in a year, to the same exact N times the number of years power. So that works out to be 50,000 times 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12, because it's monthly, which is 12 months in a year, and then 12 times 8 will give you the exponent. So that's 50,000 times 1.005. Do the math, you'll see that it works. And then 12 times 8 is 96. And you crunch those numbers and you get $80,707.13. So there are 2 more questions for us to do before we get into the meat of today's lesson. And this week's lessons will be shorter than last week's lessons. An enormous amount covered last week. This week, not so much. These were 2 questions that you, as a group, as not personally but collectively, had some difficulty with on your last test. So we did one of them in our last lesson, and we're going to do another one today. We'll probably do another one on Wednesday's lesson, and then I'll think we've hit it enough that any misunderstandings are clarified. Go ahead. Okay, so how long until invests it's compounded annually at 12%? How long until there are no deposits or withdrawals? He has $384,000. So the big hint here is we're looking at doubling things. We're looking at a rule of 72, because 72 divided by 12 is 6, and these are all multiples of 6. That's kind of the hint that suggests you go in this direction. So in 6 years, because we're going to double the 12,000, you have 24,000. In 12 years, 48,000, because you're doubling. Each time you double, 24 becomes 48. 18 years, 96. 24 years, 192,000. 30 years, you'll have $384,000. So there's your answer. Okay. Now, the next one, I don't have animated, so the answer's up there right from the start. I'm going to read it to you, and let's have you get started before you actually see it. Johnny buys a bond for $1,500 that matures in 7 years at a 3% growth rate. How much interest does the bond earn after 5 years? So, first off, what kind of interest does a bond earn? Does it earn simple interest or compound interest? Simple. And what we have here, you know the simple interest formula, right? I equals PERT, PRT. And Johnny buys a bond for $1,500 that matures in 7 years at a 3% growth rate. $1,500, 7 years, 3% growth rate. How much interest does the bond earn after 5 years? So after 5 years, how much money of that interest has it gotten? Actually, let's change that. After 7 years. Let's just change that to after 7 years. So it matures in 7 years. He keeps it in there for 7 years. $1,500, 7 years, 3% growth rate. Okay. I equals PRT, $1,500, 3%, 7 years. Works out to $315. We have completed our review. It is time that we look toward some new material.